Make sure the volume's on here. Just waiting for some people to sign on here, trying to get the live stream set up, you guys. Okay, there we go. So I can go ahead and close that off, or I can at least turn the volume off. Yeah, today was surprisingly nice too. Since you bring that up, it was 68 degrees at my house today. I was expecting maybe low 60s today, but it was kind of nice. Can you guys hear me just fine? Let me know if you guys can hear me real quick here too, just to make sure. I want to make sure everything's working. Okay. All right, good, good. It looks like the GFS is running now. The European won't start running for like another hour and a half, but the GFS 0Z is just now running. The model's been pretty consistent with this whole event here. So someone says, okay, so Doinko says Portland, nice day today. Yeah, I was going to check that out real quick here too and see what that... What did you hit in Portland today? Check the last 6 hours here. 99 at Walla Walla. Jeez, yeah, it's starting to warm up pretty well then. So yeah, it looks like Portland was in the upper 70s. Looks like 78 degrees is the high temperature for Portland today, unless they hit something last second there. Looks like about 4 o'clock, 78 degrees, 25.6 centigrade. The peak temperature of the heat wave from Seattle, low 90s aren't out of the question here, but it depends. You know, if we get, just depends on how strong the thermal trough is that comes up. Let's see what the GFS is saying. I haven't looked at the 18Z GFS also, in fact, so let's look at that here real quick. But I think that low 90s is possible. I think one of the days we'll get that, and Monday might be that day. It looks like the models are homing in on Monday. You usually get one last day. The marine push will start on the coastline like early afternoon, and you'll start to get the marine push inland, but doesn't save you from a warm day. Sometimes that'll be the warmest day, in fact. So let's check for Seattle here. We'll look at temperature. It's the 18Z loading up here now. I think the European is underdoing the temperatures we're going to see like Saturday and Sunday. I think the GFS is definitely closer. I think we're going to be into the 80s on both Saturday and Sunday, and then maybe around 90 on Monday from what I've been seeing. You can see the GFS there. I mean, it's calling for what, 91 there, just outside of Seattle. Look at that, 95 down towards Tacoma, Olympia 93. Look at Hoquiam 89, Portland up into the mid 90s there. It's kind of a nice heat wave coming, and I know we're kind of still have some trauma from last year's heat wave there, but this is an unusual heat wave in of itself. Sometimes we don't even get 90 degrees at SeaTac during a season. You know, sometimes we'll just be in the upper 80s, you know, and before this last year's event in 2021, we were actually, I mean, we would be flirting with some record highs on these days coming up here. I think I still have, let's see, I think it hasn't updated yet, so we can take a look at that also. But Freebird has a pool near the Puget Sound. All right, you're one of the lucky ones there for the rare summertime heat we get here. So troughing, Luis asks, what's troughing? Troughing is just low pressure, basically. So troughing can be, you know, you get cooler air aloft, for example, and you get low pressure, or sometimes you get a ridge of high pressure, and then on the other side of that ridge is usually a trough. So a trough is just kind of an area of low pressure. It's where winds converge, and where you've got rising air and clouds, and precipitation is generally what we mean when we define or we call something a trough. 90 degrees is hot enough for me, that's for sure. I mean, I get pretty worn out when it gets this hot. Let's see. So what are we looking at here? Today's the 22nd, 23rd is Thursday, 24th Friday, 25th Saturday, 26th Sunday, and Monday. So if you look at Seattle's record highs prior to that, 90 and 92, we'd be flirting with record highs had we not had that heat dome of last year. So this is pretty unusually hot for the area. Yeah, I don't know if we're going to manage a cool summer this year. It's been pretty, you know, some of the models have been showing, or the SPC, especially the climate outlook, has been saying we might be slightly above average, you know, and a lot of times La Nina doesn't necessarily mean you're going to have a cool summer itself. A lot of times La Nina just kind of highlights itself there during the springtime. Yeah, my heat pump was having a hard time last year too. It really was not working very well. It could not keep up last year. So we had to buy like separate window units and stuff and install those. Those really helped in parts of the houses. Yeah, last year's heat wave. I mean, that was such an extraordinary ridge last year too. It's a really rare event, and I'll be interested to see if something like that happens here in the next 10 to 20 years. Just because with the climate change occurring, I'm interested to see if that kind of heat wave is going to become more prevalent. Yeah, mosquitoes, man. They've been out in force already this year. But yeah, taking a look at that, we'd be flirting with record highs had we not had that heat wave of last year. So this is a pretty good little heat wave coming up here. This is for Sunday. The GFS showing 91 for Seattle here. We're going into Monday, and the GFS keeps on showing the SeaTac area, the Seattle area, into the mid 90s there. You can see the cooling effects of the Puget Sound there as well. And you can see this marine push start to come in here on the coastline. And you'll notice the coast cool down pretty much here near 4 o'clock p.m. on Monday afternoon. And look at this temperature drop by 7 and 10 o'clock over at like, you know, almost 25, 26 degrees here, according to the GFS here in a 6-hour period. So a pretty intense marine push looks to be rolling through there. But I don't think that the GFS is going to be correct necessarily here on Monday with 97. I think low 90s is definitely possible. And we're still a little bit too far out for the 18Z. European only goes out 90 hours. We're at 123 here. So it's not going to show. We're not going to see on the European yet. We'll have to wait for the European to roll in tonight. Yeah, Adventures with Paul asks, why does the South get so hot, especially California, Florida, and Texas? It is definitely because they're near the equator. They get more direct sunlight. They're near the tropics, and we're just closer to the North Pole here. The further north you go, the closer you are to the poles. And even in the summertime, the poles still are going to be colder than the equatorial areas just because the direct rays of the sun. Yeah, I love the marine pushes that come after the heat wave. Sometimes you're just sitting there and you're just baking and you almost can't take it anymore. And all of a sudden you can kind of feel the wind just kick on and you can feel that cool air start to come in, and you try to get all the windows open to your house and let that air just flood into your house. It's pretty nice sometimes. And sometimes you'll wake up the next morning and it's pretty darn chilly. You're down into the low 60s or upper 50s, and that marine air is in, and the fog and the low clouds are in there, and that you can tell the marine layer has just come in. Even the day after usually a heat wave, the marine layer kicks in, the clouds usually burn off and you still get up into the low 70s. So it's still usually a pretty nice day, but you just cool down pretty considerably with the marine push. Very nice. Yeah, end of next week. We're just waiting to see what that trough is going to do on the backside of this heat wave. So as we check this out here, I'll look at the heights here and see what the 18Z brought us here. You can see the trough moving through British Columbia, of course, we've been talking about for the last few days. And then you'll check out that ridge that kind of builds. And this low is almost like it's cut off out here, but eventually it's going to kick through the area here. And it's not exceptionally strong or anything like that, but it is definitely not a big ridge, and it's going to definitely cool us down. So the GFS is kind of showing that trough just kind of hanging around over Washington. So it's definitely going to be cooler than what we dealt with. Then you can see there's some ridging and some more troughing up the. So yeah, I mean, this is probably going to change quite a bit. We're getting way out into fantasy land here, but definitely the models are showing a trough after this heat wave. So we're definitely going to drop back down towards probably closer to normal for sure. Yeah, enjoy the cool nights here through probably Friday night. You'll start to notice your home's warming up pretty nicely, and then once you get into Sunday and Monday morning, it's going to be hard to cool down overnight here. Good afternoon, everybody. Good evening. So Jordan Trupner asks, why is Hoquiam going to be warmer at the coast versus, say, Buckley, where the compression really happens? Well, here's the deal. When you've got that compression, let's back up towards the day Saturday, or actually Sunday is probably going to be when Hoquiam is the warmest there. You can see some upper 80s there. It probably Buckley, you'd be into the low 90s in this scenario, but Hoquiam would be into the upper 80s. But still, you get this air that compresses off there, and it's really not warming up as it continues to flow out towards the coastline here. It's not cooling down either, because this is going to be generally offshore. So you're not bringing that marine influence into Hoquiam. You're just going to be bringing this heated air off the Cascades and maybe even off the Olympics a little bit here too. And so you're just going to continue that heating all the way down towards the coastline. And generally right along the beaches, it's really, you don't warm up quite as much just because the ocean is right there, but you can get like Quileute and Hoquiam, get some pretty lofty temperatures when you get these offshore patterns going on here. Like last year, I can't remember exactly what Quileute got in Hoquiam, but they warmed up really nice. I think record highs out there. Hillsborough Airport recorded their first 80-degree day on record yesterday. The previous was June 12th. I used to work at Hillsborough there doing the weather down there in the tower for about a year or so back in the late 90s. Any instability chances? Last year was disappointing in Southern BC. Yeah, that is something that's going to... let's take a look at that too here. Let's check out the 18Z because it runs out a little further. I want to take a look at that too. Yeah, I've been watching this potential instability that we're going to have coming up here at the end of the heat wave, because sometimes these little upper level lows can kick through some convection. So here we go into Monday, and we're going to get the marine push starting here. As you can see, the pressure getting higher, and the thermal trough kind of moving inland a little bit here. So we go through the day Tuesday, or actually Monday night, you can kind of see something firing up over the Oregon Cascades here. And this is almost certainly convection at this point. And a lot of times these systems don't show their precipitation until almost the day of. But you can see this would be Monday night. This would definitely be convective activity, and probably so even on Vancouver Island out here and over BC. But this would be convective activity. And so just the hint of it showing there makes me kind of think that we might see some convection out of this. And here goes overnight Monday into Tuesday morning. And you can see some of this over the North Cascades. It's probably going to have lightning associated with it. And especially as it spreads over the area on in through the day Tuesday and Tuesday afternoon. So it looks like British Columbia might get some good convection, especially over the mountains and through Tuesday as well. I mean, technically you can call it monsoon moisture. It's an upper level low. It's kind of steering the same moisture up here. As we're looking at here, you can see, so right now, like just south of the Bay Area here is getting some pretty good lightning strikes too, as this monsoon moisture kind of moves up. You can see this low pressure spinning here. Looks like it's going to start getting Vegas here shortly as well. In fact, let's check out the radar here. Yeah, the tomatoes need it. We've got our tomatoes planted outside, and they're really kind of, you can see that they're struggling a bit. So they're really going to be loving this heat coming up here. And hopefully that trough doesn't cool us down too much in the wake of that. So let's check out. But yeah, I can see south of the Bay Area here, there's a lot of convective activity going on down here. And you can see some showers rolling through some of these areas, and rain is really just kind of rare out here. I used to live out here in Tonopah, Nevada, and it only rained like 5 inches a year. And Death Valley, look at that. Looks like they might be getting some convective activity all the way down into Death Valley there right now too. January 17th. I don't remember the pattern on that one, so I'll have to check that out. What is your best guess for July 4th? So July 4th, yeah, that's a little bit out there right now. Let's look and see, what are we dealing with here? 30th. July 4th. I mean, look at this trough over here. It might be getting some precipitation on July 4th. I don't know. But yeah, I don't put too much stock in this trough as of right now, July 4th. I mean, that's still a ways out there. And even if it's over the Gulf of Alaska there too, we're probably not going to be seeing a lot of precipitation from it. We generally don't get a lot of precip from these kind of systems here as we go through the summer. So I lived in Tonopah, Nevada. I did the weather there. There's a weather station there in Tonopah, the National Weather Service, and I worked there for about 4 months before I packed up and left. I couldn't deal with it there. It just wasn't, me and my wife at the time, we moved back to Seattle. It's not a great place to like try to start a family or anything down there, but it was for the National Weather Service, and Area 51 is right there too. So we had to I had to do some background checks, and some of the workers down there, they would bus them in on these buses where you couldn't see in the windows and stuff, and they couldn't see out. And I don't know exactly why that was, but it was kind of interesting. Kind of an interesting place there, Central Nevada. So what Chroma slime there, interesting name. So what days would we get this convective activity? It would probably occur on Monday night across some of the Oregon and Washington Cascades, and maybe through some of the higher terrain of British Columbia here, some of this convection. And then on Tuesday, there's probably going to be some other kind of round, but it's probably going to be Cascades East and maybe British Columbia. It looks like it's highlighted on during the day Tuesday. So Monday night and Tuesday is a potential for some convective activity. In fact, let's look at, I think the European here actually highlighted this coming up. So let's take a look at that. So this is the 18Z. Let's go to the 12Z European here and look at what that convection might bring. It doesn't want to seem to load there. Okay, there we go. As we go through Sunday, there's Sunday night. You can see a little bit coming up into Oregon. This is monsoon moisture down here as well. And as we go on in through Monday, it shows a little bit here over the Cascades. So that would definitely be, we'd be getting some lightning. Look at some pretty good lightning over British Columbia there too. Now, as we go through into Tuesday morning, into Tuesday afternoon, you can kind of see over the Cascades, the Olympics a little bit, and over BC. And look at this, some of the northern interior areas of western Washington, the Cascades, North Cascades, Okanagan Highlands, and British Columbia again, and often through the Rockies, portions of Idaho too. So there is definitely, European and GFS are hinting at this convective potential here going on Monday night into Tuesday. Yeah, if you got down to 3 in Hillsboro, there was definitely Arctic air that was leaking into the region for sure. Leilani Unger, supporter, good evening. Hope you guys are doing good. Yeah, I'd like to see some lightning. I love that. What was that, a couple of years ago, that August 2020, where we had that 98-degree day at SeaTac, and we had some convection move up the Olympic Mountains and the Cascades. Caught a really nice lightning strike in that one. Wonder if I could find that here too. Yeah, September 19 was a good one too. That was a pretty good convective event that came up the Puget Sound too. Hi from White Rock, BC, David Jones. Hey everybody, how's it going? Glad you could join the chat here. Looks like we got 80 people watching now. If you guys aren't subscribers, subscribe up. Help the channel hit 10,000. Let me get the store on here and we can get that rolling. Maybe get some different kind of items on the store here too. I'm trying to find that lightning picture right now really quickly if I can, but I don't know if I don't know where I stashed that. So you guys want the heat, or do you guys like that cool and rainy period we have here? Are you ready for some heat now? I mean, I'm ready for the heat myself. Taking a few more minutes here. I'm going to look for this lightning strike here, see if I can find it. The one that came up the Puget Sound there in August of 2020. It's not showing up yet. Oh well. Kevin Hendrickson. Supporter. Thanks for supporting the page. I want southeast flow. Yeah, that happens when we get those upper level lows off the coastlines, Washington, Oregon, and BC, and you get that southeast flow. You can bring that instability off, or you trigger that instability and bring it off the mountains into the lowlands. That's Zulu. So 18Z, I'm saying 18 Zulu time. That's about 11 a.m. here in the Pacific Northwest. You subtract 7 right now. When we go back, if we switch daylight up again, then you subtract 8, basically. Yeah, 95. That is a pretty big scorcher here. I mean, especially when we spend all year, basically, we spend inside trying to keep the house warm, and then all of a sudden we get these hot days and everybody kind of freaks out. It's a pretty interesting dynamic here. So look at the 18Z Euro calling for 93, maybe even 3 90-degree days at Portland here coming up. Because the European has been playing it colder than normal. I mean, it called for, what, 71 today at Portland, for example. And what did they hit? 78 degrees. So the European has been playing it pretty chilly. And you can see potential for 3 90-degree days here. Let's check out the GFS here, too. I can't find that lightning strike picture on here, I guess. I don't know what I did with it. Yeah, the sun came out this afternoon here in Seattle. It was not bad. Look at the 18Z GFS calling for 88, 95, and 88 on Monday. And that could easily bring 2 90-degree days there. Look at that, 95 on Sunday. Whew. But then down closer to normal there on the extended, but still warmer than what we've been dealing with. Even the GFS was off for Portland today with a 78. So some of these temperatures might get downplayed a little bit here, especially when we get them the day of. Yeah, the rivers are really cold this time of year. Heads up for that. It might be in here. Let me see. There we go. Yeah, this is the picture I caught there, and I think it was August of 2020 there. I couldn't believe I actually got this image to happen. Here, I'll bring it. Oops, where'd it go? I lost it. Yeah, there's another one I got there too. Yeah, that was definitely the best one right there. But yeah, high bases, nice sunset, looking over the Puget Sound, and just bam. I bet somebody got startled by that strike there. Looks like it hit just near Vashon Island, maybe on the Kitsap Peninsula out there. Yeah, let's take a look at La Nina. I've been paying such close attention here to the discussion. Here we go. Oh, it'll correct for me there. So we're still dealing. June 9th was the last one there. Let me back up. We'll do the Here we go. This is one they release every week. So they brought out this one 2 days ago. Yeah, I forgot to cover it this week, actually. So still that La Nina advisory. Man, this would be something if we go La Nina back to back to back here. Very rare. But look at this. I mean, this latest weekly departure, we're really warming up. Niña 3.4 is what we measure this by. We're at negative 0.6. And that is barely into La Nina conditions here. But you can kind of still see, we still have the classic La Nina pattern. Even though the sea surface temperatures are cooling off a bit here, we are still in a La Nina pattern generally. You can see that cold water extending off the coast of South America, across the equator there. And we measure that area right about here. So you can kind of still see it's La Nina pattern, but the waters are cooling down now. You can kind of see that here too, May 25th, June 1st, June 8th, June 15th, and you can kind of see that anomaly going away a bit, but you can still kind of see this horseshoe with the warm water around the equatorial waters here. That is kind of the signature of La Nina, so it is still there. And you can see the change in weekly sea surface temperatures here. You can see how it warmed up pretty significantly along the equator there. So as we go into summer here, there's, La Nina is definitely not going to have as much of a grip as it did during the springtime. That's just how it is, climate wise. And as we go into summer here, we could be above average across much of the Pacific Northwest. Let's check this out here. So I want to take a look at the model runs here coming up also. Let's scroll down a little more. And you can see we did the La Nina there in 2020. So it would be 2021, 2022, and the next would be 2023. So it would be pretty insane if we went back to back to back. I mean, it's only happened twice really in my lifetime before. And you can see during April, we were pretty well into moderate La Nina territory, negative 1.1 here, but we're probably going to be definitely much warmer across in through May and June. But if you guys look at this a little bit closer here, yeah, neutral wouldn't be bad too. If you look at that closely, you can see La Nina taper off, and actually neutral becomes favored by February there. Slight chance, very slight chance of El Nino there. But you can see some of the statistical average, dynamic average here, and model predictions for ENSO kind of showing us move back in towards neutral territory as we go into early next year. So it's going to be right on the borderline, but something that usually doesn't happen once we go into a period into like if it's a La Nina or an El Nino, it's rare to like switch out of that as we are in the winter months. So I'm kind of interested to see how this turns out. I mean, it's not out of the question we're going to go to a neutral period here, but it's just kind of unusual. And you can kind of see this. It still has the La Nina signature through August, September, October, November, December, but you can really see it start to wane as we get into January and February. But again, this is way out there in the forecast, so we'll see how that develops, And this is July, August, September here. This was issued June 16th. So it's still calling for equal chances for Western Washington and Oregon here. You can see Eastern Washington, Oregon should be a little bit above average. We'll see how that goes. Yeah, I hope it doesn't get to 102 either. I'd take a couple days in the 90s. We can deal with that, especially with a nice marine push coming in here. It would be very nice. I think the heat would be enjoyed by many. Here, what was I going to look at here? I wanted to take a look at the past. As you can see, you'll notice that when you go into a La Nina, you don't really come out of it during the winter. So I kind of wonder about these model runs here showing us coming out of a La Nina pattern next year. You notice the El Nino year there, El Nino seasons there. They kind of taper off as you go into summer, then you kind of transition into the next phase as you go on into the next fall and winter period. I know a 90-year-old. Yeah, there was a lot of people, like in British Columbia especially, that died during that heat wave last year. I was going to do the monsoon chase this week. It's probably not going to happen. I'll probably do a dust devil chase on Friday, but something came up, so I probably won't do the monsoon chase this week. Any flooding concerns? Not generally. We don't get too much flooding here when we get snow melt. It's not usually a big problem here in the Pacific. Well, I should say for Washington, Oregon, especially western portions, we generally do not get flooding with the snow melt. Sometimes the eastern portions can get it. Yeah, there were a lot of deaths from that heat, though, especially in British Columbia. I mean, some of those temperatures were just completely outrageous. It was just an insane weather event. I forgot when I shot this lightning strike here. Taking a look at some of these other lightning pictures I have here. I don't remember what year that one was, though. But yeah, La Niña is supposed to hang around. We'll see what it does here. Now let's check out. I'm going to look at the GFS here, the 0Z. That should be on the run here. I'm waiting for this to load up here. Here's Saturday. I'll do 6-hour max so we can see what the temperature max is out at. Looks like GFS calling for 86 here, Seattle. You can see Portland around 80, upper 80s as well. Hoquiam getting pretty warm out there. You can see the cooling effects of the Puget Sound, Whidbey Island up there. So if you want to beat the heat, head out to western Whidbey Island. Look at that, 64. Pretty big difference. And as we go through the day, Sunday, check that out. Sunday, 91 Seattle, just outside of Seattle, mid-90s. Mid-90s in Portland. Look at the coastal range there for Oregon. Hoquiam, 89. Eastern Washington, low 90s for some areas. Now let's see if Monday's still the hottest day. It looks like it's scheduling it to be. And look at this. The GFS 0Z backed off. It was showing like 97, 96 the last few runs for Seattle. So it backed off there a bit, which makes sense. So I wouldn't put this out of the question that we get a couple 90 degrees even for Seattle. Of course, it's going to be more likely for the Portland area, though. So Conrad Movius says, what set up last year's heat dome that made it so hot? Well, last year's heat dome was a ridge basically in the perfect position. I mean, if we look at our ridge now, coming up here during our heat wave, you can see it's a strong ridge up here, but last year's was really much stronger and it expanded all the way across British Columbia here. And it was really in a perfect area to drive offshore flow across British Columbia, Washington, and Oregon. And just the exceptional strength of the high there. I mean, you had a lot of sinking air. You had some offshore flow, a very powerful thermal trough. We had really warm air all the way up towards the Queen Charlotte Islands, like exceptionally hot air. Thermal lows do have the tendency to bring instability or monsoon moisture. They usually do. It doesn't always get up towards Washington. You know, the further south you go through the Washington, Oregon Cascades, the better chance you have to see that convection usually. Oh, so you guys saw that. That RGR says, I remember that lightning strike. I'm on Vashon, and I swear it came into my backyard. Yeah, so I guess I caught that lightning strike there. So I'm sure, yeah, that probably was a blast for somebody over there. Now in BC, we have an alert system in place for extreme heat. Interesting. Yeah, that's the good thing about the Puget Sound. I mean, if you live near the Puget Sound or the coastal areas, you can just drop down to the water, and the water is always cold. Doesn't matter how hot it gets here. The water is always cold in the Puget Sound or along the Washington, Oregon coast. Off-topic question, Nathan Wolf says, but I'm curious to know when lightning strikes the transmission tower, is there no thunderclap? I asked this because Reed Timmer got a video of this. Okay, if you don't know. There still should be, because the lightning bolt itself, what thunder is when lightning strikes, it's just heating the air very quickly, and that's what causes the thunder. Boom, heated air very rapidly. So it should cause thunder. Yeah, Vancouver, BC. Yeah, it's a great place to visit up there too. I'm glad I have a lot of viewers up in BC. I know I have some in Eastern BC too. Kind of nice. Yeah, last year even Whidbey Island was not immune to the heat dome. Good point. So do what you like. Ask, can you talk about how weather balloons work? So basically, I mean, you're just putting instruments on a balloon and it's radioing the data back to you. You let that balloon go up in the air and it radios data back to you at certain heights. And I did that in school actually a couple times. We released balloons, and you would time it to certain elevations, because sometimes back in the day you didn't know how high that balloon was, so you had to kind of measure the rate at which it would climb by just counting seconds basically. And then you would say, okay, the balloon's at 1,000 feet here. And yeah, so that's what happens. And when the balloon something interesting too is when the balloon goes up, it expands really big. So, the pressure gets low, there's less atmosphere above, and so the balloons can get really huge. And sometimes I have planes, I work for Alaska Airlines, and they talk about how they see weather balloons sometimes, and they're really big. When they get up there, they expand to pretty wide diameters. Cheers, BC viewers. Yes. All right, so let's look at the 0Z GFS here. I want to kind of look at this. Looks like the timing of that, that's a little bit later on that push too. So we'll have to see how that works. But you can see how this trough just kind of settles right over the Pacific Northwest here. So we're going to get cooled back down here pretty well. But look at that. Even later into next week, that ridging still over Alaska. And, we could even get hotter again as we go on into early July, just looking at this ridge position here. But it depends on where this trough sets up. Because if it sets up there, you're going to get some offshore flow across at least some of British Columbia here, maybe Washington as well. In fact, let's look at the upper air wind, what it would be doing here at this point. You can see that trough digging down here, but you can see some offshore flow aloft there. Let's zoom in on that. Western Canada, let's take a look at 925 millibars. As we go way on to the extended here. Oh, it's not loading up very fast, is it? So that troughing drops down, that ridge builds. You can see some offshore flow as we go on into later next week. You can see that northerly flow kind of coming through BC off Vancouver Island. And you can, yeah, so, I mean, it is that time of year. Maybe we'll drop off the temperatures a little bit after the heat wave, then we'll bump it back up again the following weekend. Who knows? I mean, we'll just have to watch the extended runs there. Small changes in trough and ridge position lead to huge changes for surface weather conditions. Yeah, that's true. The super extended on GFS always kind of smooths out, looks overly based on climatology. It does, especially, well, in the ensembles for sure, but sometimes the control run gets pretty wonky there too. So if we go to, like, let's check out the 18Z, and we'll check out the GFS, and we'll look at, yeah, it's not too bad here. The 18Z, this is for Portland, and you can see there's the mean. The mean is the average of all these ensemble runs here, and the control is just the initial conditions as we know them, and we just let that model run out. But you can get pretty good confidence when you see the control run and the mean temperature pretty similar. And so that's why we have high confidence in this heat wave coming. You can see Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, they're all pretty close. Saturday, Sunday, Monday, pretty close with that. And you can see the discrepancy starts in some of these ensemble runs as we go off into next week. A couple of them want to still remain some hot temperature, keep some hot temperatures around the Portland area. But look at, for example, on Sunday, showing Portland mid 90s. The mean is right there with the control there as well. So pretty good bet. You're going to be into the mid 90s even for Portland there on Sunday. Saturday is well probably up around 90. And if that trend continues with the GFS and the European kind of lowballing these temperatures a little bit, you could have 2 or 3 degrees, 2 or 3 days into the 90-degree area. So what is my favorite weather event of all time? That's a real tough one because there's so many that come to mind. One of my favorite around here is I'd probably say the February 1989 Arctic blast. That was just an exceptional storm. It snowed for over 36 hours. The high temperature one of the days was like 18 degrees. We had so much snow. We had snow drifting to like 4 and 5 feet. It got down to 7 degrees. I also really love the inaugural day storm. That was a great setup. And there's so many other things. There's also a really good storm chasing day, Dodge City, 2016, May 24th. Easily my best storm chase day of all time. And it's one of my top 5 weather events in my life that I would want to replay if I could. Would be Dodge City, February 1989, the huge snowstorm. December 1990 was great. The inaugural day storm of 1993 was awesome. And I'm sure I'm just leaving a few things out here. I remember the 1981 huge windstorm we had in the Puget Sound also. I remember the Thanksgiving Puget Sound windstorm as well that knocked the power out. Dodge City. Oh, Garrett's in the house. Garrett Hartung, my main storm chase buddy right there. That's our ultimate goal, is to see another Dodge City. We've had some pretty good days. Me and Garrett saw that Iowa tornado together this year. That was a pretty epic storm. Probably a top 10 chase day for me all time. That was a very lovely tornado. I'm invested in the force to take a picture. I mean, the 4th of July, it's a good bet the weather's going to be pretty good. It depends exactly where you are, but both February 1989 and December 1990 barely had any snow in Portland. Well, the 1991 was kind of an Arctic front that moved down, so you just probably didn't get the moisture all the down towards Portland. Same with February 1989. Like December 1990, there's a little trough that moved through kind of western Washington. The convergence zone drug across the Puget Sound as that cold air tried moving down. So yeah, not much moisture at all got down into Portland for that one, for sure. Yeah, Alaska has been doing pretty good temperature-wise. I mean, it's been pretty warm up there. I'm looking back at some of these chat messages here. Let's check out some more here. So the Thanksgiving in Whidbey. Yeah, I remember we were cooking Thanksgiving dinner, and I think our power went out, but it came back on, and we were able to finish the turkey that night or something, if I remember correctly. Oh yeah, December 1968. If you remember that one, man, that's way back though. That's huge snowfall amounts around the Puget Sound on that one. December 1968. What a winter that would have been. I'd love to experience a winter like that. Eugene, February 1989, had 5.6 inches of snow. Very nice. Now you can see some of the ensemble runs here on the 18Z kind of show Portland warming up pretty good again next week, but you can see some of the discrepancy between the mean and the control kind of calling for 80s versus 70s. So, but we're definitely going to get warmer than what we've been for sure. I mean, it's going to be it's really tough to get that cold as we go into July here in the Pacific Northwest. We usually warm up pretty good here. Yeah, the rest of the country's really been baking. So how far is this NAM going out now? Let me see here. I wanted to look at this. Actually, let's look at the NAM. Lower resolution, but we're going to look at the northwest here and take a look and see what kind of heights this NAM has got here. Let's take a look. Trough moves through. Let's see how much the ridge starts to build back in on the NAM. Not bad there. Look at the 588 marker coming up our way here. So it looks like we peak out about Sunday morning ridge-wise before it starts to relax again. Look at those offshore winds going on Sunday morning. That's going to be pretty nice to go hang out at the Gorge or Stampede Pass or some of the gaps in the Cascades, Oregon, or out to the coastline here with those offshore winds. It's going to make for a really warm day on Sunday. I mean, look at that. That's pretty insane. You can see that east flow just blasting out across Washington, out of the Fraser River Gap even, the Gorge, all the way out over the Pacific Ocean here. Pretty nice. Let's see what the upper level temperature here. And these 925 millibar temperatures really show the thermal trough well. Like last year, we just had some insane temperatures well out over the Pacific here. So you get the thermal trough was just fully established last year during our heat dome. And this is not a bad one either. I mean, it does bring some pretty warm air all the way up the coastline there. You can see Saturday, it's 2,500 feet. SeaTac's going to be at 70 degrees there. And you see, Portland area, Southern Oregon, I mean, you're getting up into the 90s really at 2,500 feet. Pretty intense. But let's go back and look at what we're dealing with right now to kind of give some... I mean, you can see what kind of onshore flow we're dealing with now and some pretty chilly air aloft here. And then as we go through Thursday, this is not loading very quickly here. But you can see as we get towards Friday, we really start to turn offshore, and that's going to warm up the temperatures. This is still pretty low level. 2,500 feet is not much above the surface for some of these areas too. So, but yeah, you can see this thermal trough and the warm tongue moves up here. Let's look at the surface pressure here and see if we can see. Yep, you can see that thermal trough kind of there Sunday morning. That's probably going to be the peak of the thermal trough here. And it shows up pretty well here on the NAM, but you still see it's a very subtle feature. You notice in the wintertime, we get these deep, these, tight gradients and these big millibar differences, but the thermal lows are very subtle features here. I hear you like Deception Pass. Who likes... I've been up to Deception Pass a couple times. It's a nice place. So, yeah, let's look at the GFS here too. Yeah, you can see the same thing. Has a little bit of a deeper low right off the Oregon coast here Sunday morning, and you can see as we go through Sunday night, it's really the peak of that thermal trough there. Now on Monday, we're going to have another warm day again. You can actually see this stretching all the way up. The thermal trough is going to be close enough where it's going to keep, you can see that kind of shift off to the east. It's going to allow for some marine air coming in through Tuesday. So Tuesday is probably going to be the initial cool down day. And if we look at the anomaly here, normalized anomaly, you can really see here on Sunday afternoon and evening, you see that thermal trough coming up, and Monday as well too. It's going to be just over the top. The marine push is going to be underway Monday night. Maybe some convection over the Cascades into the British Columbia higher terrain as well. So it's going to be an interesting transition as always from a heat wave, marine push, maybe some convection. Always a lot to look forward to. $70 people watching right now. Yeah. So I got about 15 more minutes before I got to wind down the live stream here. But I'll do another weather briefing tomorrow morning as well, and take a look and see what kind of temperatures we're dealing with here. The models are doing pretty good with this event, it looks like. For those of you joining recently, the European has been showing some convection for Tuesday, especially northern portions of Washington and British Columbia too. But it has been showing a little bit of a hint for some convection as we go through Monday afternoon, Oregon Cascades, sorry, Washington Cascades. And sometimes, you know, these thunderstorms just don't show up and we're in limbo, and then the day of it looks like, okay, it might happen. And really up until when it starts to happen, sometimes it's really tough to pinpoint where this convection is going to happen or if it's going to happen. No problem, Freebird. Thanks for watching. Checking out. Thanks for the video. Yeah, everybody, thanks for watching. We'll go along a little bit more here. Let's take a look at if you guys, I talked about this at the beginning there too. You can see the monsoon moisture kind of moving up into California. There's some lightning just south of the Bay Area right now. And actually, if we go to, this one has lightning built into it. And you see that lightning is still down in Southern California here. Looks like some precipitation was going on near Death Valley. It's kind of a bucket list thing of mine to capture some nice lightning shots near Death Valley or in Death Valley. There's actually some lightning going on with this system right now through British Columbia. You can see it as well as it moves into Alberta here. So nice. Yeah, maybe when we get this low pressure starts to move in and we build up this heat, we'll get some monsoon moisture up over the region here. Maybe we'll get some cool looking lightning strikes across the Cascades. Well, probably some convection will occur over the Oregon Cascades if I... Does it look good for phytoplankton production this year? I don't know what that means, really. I am not a... I think that would be marine biology, but I am not sure about that. Nathan Wolf says, I think California usually in onshore. It usually is in onshore flow, but a lot of times, like Santa Ana winds, you'll get some powerful offshore winds that really bring the humidity down. Southern California, it can be a real fire hazard when the Santa Ana winds are going, because you'll get a high pressure system here over the Great Basin, and that high pressure will just flow over that higher terrain. And it's already very dry air, and as it moves over the mountains and compresses, by the time it gets out to Los Angeles, I lived down there for a little bit, and sometimes the humidity values would be like 3%, and you'd be in the 90s, just exceptionally dry. Yeah, Leilani talks about New Mexico and lightning strikes, yeah, especially during the monsoon. Some of those thunderstorms down there in Arizona and New Mexico, Southern California into Nevada, the bases are really nice and high, and you can catch really nice lightning bolts that are just awesomely photogenic with the monsoon storms down there. And you combine that with those haboobs, those big dust storms that can move across areas down there. You just have to watch out for the flash flooding if you're doing any monsoon chasing. Tuesday night, I'm heading out to North Dakota from Kent, Washington. Are you going to drive out there, Scott? Thanks, Mark Stewart. Thanks for checking in. Thanks for watching. Yeah, Mark Stewart talked about the California lightning strikes there too. I saw some reports that there were over 50,000 lightning strikes during the day today. I don't know how accurate that is, but that's how it goes sometimes. They get monsoon moisture down there, and that can occur. I heard that actually somebody was killed down there too. I heard a lady was killed by a lightning strike. Yeah, I was thinking about chasing tomorrow too. There's actually a tornado threat, some portions of Nebraska and Kansas out there, but it's probably a little bit below my threshold of what I'll fly out for generally. No, I haven't seen any Caribbean tropic activity out there. Well, you can see kind of the gloss here. It's just completely dead now. It's just totally gone. But there's a tropical storm out here, Celia, and it's supposed to be a hurricane by tomorrow night. It doesn't look that well defined right now, though. You can see some deep convection, but it still looks a little bit ragged there on the satellite imagery. Yeah, Nebraska's been having some good storms. So South Dakota this year has some good storms. The tornadoes have kind of been lacking across the plains, though. It's kind of been a little bit of a lackluster year as far as photogenic tornadoes. Yeah, I gotta remember to do a hotel review every time I'm at a hotel. I try to remember, then I end up forgetting. I end up starting forecasting or I'm editing photos and I just kind of forget. But I'll try to make that more of a consistent thing. Mercury Universe asks, "How was our rainfall this year compared to last year?" I don't know which area you're comparing it to. I mean, but definitely the spring was rainier than average for sure. I haven't been looking at what we did this year versus last year though recently. Long range, even if we cool down again, does it seem like? Yeah, definitely. I mean, this is just the time of year where these systems, these Pacific storms, just really start losing their punch. We don't get much precipitation from them from this point on. So generally, July and much of August are pretty dry. For example, CTEX never recorded an inch of rain on a single day during the month of July ever in its history. So we really shut off the water faucet here as we go through the summer months for the Pacific Northwest. For example, Seattle is drier than Phoenix, I think, during July and August, just for example. Yeah, 2022, definitely a windbag year for I mean, there's been some pretty gnarly storms, but there definitely been a lot of windbags going on out there for sure. It's been some good hailers out there too. When I go chasing in the plains, I always drive. I always drive. I'll drive. I mean, I'll always fly. Sorry, did I fly? Yeah. I'll always fly out to the plains. I usually fly into Denver. I flew into Billings last time. Sometimes I'll fly into Omaha, Kansas City. I've flown into Dallas, Albuquerque, Minneapolis. But I'll always fly when I go out there pretty much. That would be a pretty intense rainstorm, 1.88 inches in an hour. Yeah, my yard's really green there too, Leilani. It's the grass. I've mowed the lawn like 12 times, I think, in the last 2 months. It's been crazy. It's just growing out of control, and the weeds also are just, man, they're hard to control. But yeah, it's time of that year where we really start to warm up into July. I mean, I find it hard to believe that we're going to cool down that much in the wake of this. We're definitely going to cool down somewhat, but we could warm back up again the following weekend here too. So we'll just have to see what the models show coming up. Oh, moving to South Dakota, moving to North Dakota. Where are you living at out there? That's interesting. That's an interesting move. But yeah, you definitely get some decent thunderstorms out there in North Dakota. This has been the year of ridiculous tornado. Yeah, I saw my best one in Iowa this year. That was pretty nice back in April, but I didn't see much in the way of tornadoes since. I mean, I saw a few, but just very weak, brief stuff. December 2013 Arctic blast. I don't recall that Arctic blast there. I'm not sure. I'd have to look that one up. Jamestown, North Dakota. Yeah, I've been up there. Nice area. Nice flat state. You'll get some good Arctic blasts living out there. Yeah, I've been out in some derechos. I was out in a pretty good one there in 2020, South Dakota, Faith, South Dakota. That was a pretty gnarly storm. I've been in a few derechos out there, but not many. Yeah, that Reed catching that Andover tornado. Man, I was watching that storm go up, and I didn't go down south on it. I just thought that my storm might produce, and then it looked like it wouldn't, and it was too late for me to get back down south. Yeah, storm chasing is really great. I love it. Yeah, the spinning truck earlier this year. Yeah, the season started out pretty good, and since then it's been pretty quiet. Why do weathermen not talk about 80% of those fake clouds? I don't know about fake clouds, so I don't know. Yeah, that 2009 heat wave, man, that was pretty brutal. 103 at Seattle. I thought that one would last a little bit longer. I thought we were going to have that record high for a couple decades, but it turned out not to really happen. Yeah, thanks, Andy, for the kind words. Yeah, I work pretty hard at forecasting, especially for this area. I mean, basically since 1980, I've been paying attention to almost every weather event that rolls around through here. Sometimes I can't recall them, but when I look up the actual date, then I can kind of remember what was going on at the time. Then I kind of recall what was going on in the weather. But yeah, I can recall certain events back when I was like 8 years old here in the Pacific Northwest back in 1980. So I've got, not toot my own horn, but I'm pretty experienced with the weather here. I mean, I'm sure there's probably a couple that are better than me that have more experience, like Cliff Mass for sure. But I'm probably up there with some of probably the top 5 actual weather, the weather experienced people around the Pacific Northwest here, actually. Last year's heat wave did not set any records for Vancouver, surrounded by water. Yeah, a lot of the interior for British Columbia is what really went nuts last year. There's some pretty good lightning going through eastern British Columbia right now. It's kind of interesting. Even through southeast British Columbia there too. Nice. Looks like some good monsoon moisture still moving up through Arizona tonight, through New Mexico. I bet the chases are out there. They're probably getting some nice lightning strikes. So I may try to go out next week. We'll see how that goes. Thank you, Free Bird. Thanks for passing the word along there. Yeah, Dan, I remember I've heard the stories about the 60s snowstorms, some pretty good ones, especially that 68, 69. Thanks, everybody, for the kind words. Thanks for tuning in here. Yeah, I mean, it's the time of year where the storm chases start to move north into Canada. Just make sure to bring your passport or fly in there and check out the areas first. Sometimes I hear people have some reception issues with certain carriers up there in Canada. So make sure you have reception areas if you go out into Canada. Check to make sure if you're using AT&T or T-Mobile or Verizon. All right, you guys, I got to end the live stream here, but I will do another briefing tomorrow, and I may do another live stream on Friday night. We'll see how that goes, or maybe on Saturday. If it looks like there's some convection coming, we'll probably do a live stream on Sunday as well, maybe at nighttime too. So I'll just kind of watch that, and let's see. So tomorrow morning I'll do a briefing, and I'll probably go dust devil chasing on Friday. So I may not do a briefing Friday, but I may actually live stream the dust devil chase out there. If it's a good one, I'll live stream it. If not, I won't worry about it. But yeah, have a good night, everybody. But yeah, one more question there. Viva says she's late, but heat wave will bring increased fire risk to Olympic Peninsula. Yeah, anytime we get a heat wave around here, it definitely increases the fire risk generally for the entire area pretty much, especially once you start throwing lightning around. So, yep, I'll do briefing tomorrow morning and probably a dust devil chase on Friday. We'll do another live briefing probably this weekend. We'll check out the convection, especially if it looks like we're going to get thunderstorms around Washington, Oregon, BC. I'll definitely do another live stream then. We'll talk about that. So, all right, thanks for the kind words, everybody, and I will be signing off. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow.